Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Living Mythology, I'm proud to bring you Sword and Sandal Cinema with the star of Sword and Sandal Cinema on the internet, Brian Walker. Greetings, Brian. How are you?
I'm well tonight, Hercules. Frustrated with technology, but otherwise I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
As am I much of the time.
Well, as I was telling you, all of the software that I downloaded from my employer, which is West Virginia University, just sort of disappeared about a month ago. And that includes the Microsoft Office Suite, Zoom. I mean, all of that stuff went poof. And trying to get it all back together has not been easy.
I could imagine. I've had communication problems with my computer as well, and now Facebook is saying that all stored chats are going to disappear very soon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow. Okay.
I'm wondering, since your files disappeared, there weren't Facebook files. If the Facebook purge had anything to do with I
No, what happened with me is that our university is changing IT systems around. Um, they're going with a bunch of different vendors, so they had to, uh, well, they had to sever some ties, and it looks like they did it with a chainsaw. And some things just aren't working quite right. So there's a lot of teething problems, and from what I understand, our IT department's like woefully understaffed, and I'm sure underfunded.
well, you're retired now, so
Well, yeah, but I'm teaching this fall, so I've got two. In fact, I'm teaching tomorrow at 12:30 and 1:30.
oh, very cool. I'll be teaching soon within the month.
Oh, really? Okay. I started last week, um, so I'm about a week into the 16-week course.
Very cool.
Anyway, what I wanted to talk about tonight was Kirk Morris because it is his birthday. And sadly, he is one of the few Peplum actors from the heyday of Peplum, late 50s and early 1960s, who's still with us.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and he was sort of like the teenage Hercules, to tell you the truth. He was born in 1942, made his first film in 1961, so he was still a teenager technically when he made The Triumph of Maciste, um, which I watched this afternoon. And in watching it, there's been some discrepancy about Kirk Morris's age, and there's not a whole lot of biographical information about him. But that said, I tend to believe the 1942 birth date over 1938 because in his first film, the Triumph of Maciste, he looks about 19 years old. He looks really young. And he hasn't quite filled out physically. I mean, he's in very good shape, but he still has that teenager. He hasn't quite bulked up, a little bit. And that's something that only really comes with age. And it seems to be about 20 when you start bulking up a little bit.
Maybe we should try to locate him and communicate with him and get him on the show.
That would be interesting, but I would have absolutely no idea how to get in contact with him. Just finding information about it is difficult enough. But he was one of the few homegrown sword and sandal actors that we got. I mean, he's from Venice, Italy. He was legend has it he was a gondolier. He did enter the Mr. Italy contest in 1960, I believe, and he won in 1961 at the age of 19. And somewhere between the two, depending on which source you read and what you believe, it was either the Mr. Italy contest or by way of him being a gondolier was discovered for films because he was a nice looking guy, and he had a really nice body, nice physique, in terrific shape. Now that said, you can't just turn anybody into an actor. You have to have some screen charisma. You have to know how to, especially with Hercules portrayals, with Maciste, Samson, and so forth. Ulysses. You've got to know how to do the feats of strength so that they look like feats of strength. Yes, you're holding a paper mache boulder, over somebody's head, but you have to flex. I mean, it has to look like it is a very Herculean effort
Mhm.
in order to hold that large boulder up and then throw it on the opposing forces. And he's really good at that. I noticed even in his first movie, and in the Triumph of Machiste, whoever the cinematographer was really focuses in on his body, especially when he is doing these feats of strength. So he's got every muscle in his body flexed at one point. I don't know how he did it. I mean, he looks fantastic, but he's there's like no body fat on this man at all, and they the cinematographer comes in on shots like around, let's say, his thighs, or it'll be an upshot, and all you really can see is his torso and his face. It's the cinematography is very interesting in it, and it, it's nice having a copy of that film that's not pan and scan, because that would have been kind of difficult to have even seen, in a pan and scan format. Even in widescreen, it's kind of startling as to how close the camera comes in on him when he's doing some of his labors, doing some of his feats of strength. And that's a couple of Dan Vaddis's movies are also really focused in on the body of the protagonist and what his body goes through in order to be the protagonist to you, essentially. And it's very interesting cinematography. I can you should show your what was it that Groucho Marx said, that the heroes tits shouldn't be bigger than the heroines, or something along those lines. I think I contorted that. I think I've contorted whatever he said. But in these, since the male is the star of this, and he's not wearing very much
Mhm.
clothing, there is a lot of focus in on body parts and such. And not all peplums are like that, but Kirk Morris's do seem to be, interestingly enough. But there again, though, he's a very, very handsome young man. You're paying for it, so why not? Why not take some pictures of it, I suppose.
In the early days of physical culture, there was a discipline called muscle control.
Mhm.
There, you didn't use any weights, you just used your mind to imagine resistance. And I've used it on and off when I'm learning new exercises. Before I pick up a weight and possibly injure myself, I'll imagine myself doing it, and I'll tense my body and feel pressure. So I know what the body is going to feel like, especially the muscles involved contracting and expanding.
Mhm.
They were having these close-ups to him. He probably was using muscle control to flex the parts of the body he wanted flexed. And if it's, as you say, he didn't have a lot of fat, it would have made it a lot easier because the muscles would have been easier to see.
Right, exactly. I think that's my problem at this point. The muscles are getting kind of hard to see, despite my illness from the past couple of weeks. Um, anyway, I think Kirk Morris is interesting, not only in that he's homegrown talent, much like Alan Steele and Mimo Palmara, who he wasn't necessarily a protagonist in any Peplum films, but he must have done 50 of them. He's in a lot of them. He's usually a henchman or something like that, or he's a supporting player. He's not the protagonist. But Kirk Morris's career, unfortunately, was pretty short. It lived through the end of that wave of Peplum films, which took place between 1958 and 1965. Following that, he, like a lot of the other Peplum actors, he jumped into some of the other genres that were popular in Italy in the 60s, especially the spaghetti westerns. He's in a um, sci-fi film called Star Pilots, where he has a supporting role. And I watched that earlier this evening, and I'm a big fan of Italian, really over the top, campy Italian sci-fi
Me
films.
too.
There's a lot of them, and this one does not disappoint. it's it's a lot of fun, and it's not that heavy on the sci-fi. Um, I guess to make it less expensive, sets are expensive, and the fewer sets you have to create, the cheaper the film is. And it was clearly shot pretty quickly. But it's a fun movie. And Gordon Mitchell is even in it for a couple of minutes.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And Kirk Morris has, like I said, a supporting role in it. He's in an adversarial position first. Things change toward the end of the film. But it's a lot of fun to watch. And like I said, he didn't really make that many films outside of Peplum's. His career, for whatever, I don't know if it was his choice or if he just couldn't find roles. His career was primarily over by the time he was about 28 years old or so.
That long, huh?
Yeah, he about, I want to say about 8, 9 years. Um, and there again, the Peplum films are the ones that really, those are the ones he was best known for, and those were his starring roles too. A couple of his other films that I really like, one I have on right now is Hercules, Samson, and Ulysses.
I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
Turner Classic Movies used to run it pretty often. And speaking of Kirk Morris and video, if you can find this pretty easily on YouTube. There's some what I think is 8 millimeter footage of the Mr. Italy contest from 1961 when Kirk Morris, otherwise known as Adriano Bellini, won the competition. And it's like I said, it's very grainy. It is in color, but not very many colors. uh, maybe 4 or 5. So it's not very good footage, but it is interesting to see him posing, on stage. And it's only, I think, about 2 hours and 45 seconds or so, or I'm sorry, 2 minutes and 45 seconds. But and a lot of his films are also available on YouTube as well.
Yeah, YouTube, I'm finding it easier and easier to find old films on YouTube. There were some I couldn't find for years, and then all of a sudden they're there. I did like a random check on various sites, and I found them.
Yeah, and it pays to do a survey every once in a while, depending on what you're trying to watch. I think if I'm not mistaken, the very first film of his that I saw was the one that I ran today as today's movie of the day, and that's Colossus and the Headhunters. And that was released in 1963. Kirk Morris would have been 20, 21 years old when he acted in it, and I think it's a lot of fun. And the public domain copy of it that I used from archive.org is very good as well. It's nice to see that there are great copies of some of these films, and they're sometimes freely available, depending on the source that you can find them on. Things come and go on YouTube, so it's a good idea that if you do find it, bookmark it. You watch it as soon as you can before it disappears, just in case it's in some sort of violation of copyright. But that has happened quite a bit.
Yeah, that's happened quite a bit to me too. And as I'm reactivating certain groups I had before last time I was on Facebook, and trying to salvage what's there to the best of my ability, I'm finding that a lot of things that have been loaded there as films were no longer accessible when you clicked on them. So I've been removing those, weeding it of that.
Yeah, that's a full-time job.
Yeah, it is. And for this month, my goal was to get all of Steve Reeves's sword and sandal films that are Greco-Roman theme and mythical, to get them up in my Facebook group and viewable, the Sword and Sandal Cinema group, and that's
Hmm.
accomplished. So I'll probably do Reg Park next.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's only 5 films there, so it shouldn't be that
Yeah,
hard.
that's a really easy one. The ones that I have had pretty a lot of ease in finding on archive.org. And the reason that I like it over YouTube is that unless you pay to not watch the commercials on YouTube, you're
Mhm.
going to have to watch the commercials, if you watch a film. And I think that some of them are getting really intrusive. I mean, the commercial breaks are longer and longer.
Yes,
Um, and you're given the disclaimer at the bottom that if you watch this long commercial, there won't be as many commercials. I couldn't prove it by me. I'm still having to mute a lot of commercials and some of the political ads. I mean,
I
it's
know.
the last thing I want when I'm trying to watch an old film. It's- Thanks for taking me out of it and bringing me back into the present. So that's one of the reasons why I like to use archive.org stuff, because it does not have insidious commercials, all the way through it. And some of the copies are very, very good. And there's actually a terrible copy, unfortunately, of Kirk Morris's film Hercules in the Valley of Woe. Um, I do have it linked on his page. I don't think I have it active right now because it's just not a very good copy of the film. I keep hoping that somebody will either step in with some AI and try to rescue the picture and the sound, or maybe just find a better copy of the film, somewhere. One of the oddest Peplum movies, I think, is Kirk Morris's The Witch's Curse. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I've seen that. That's
It's
with Cyclops, I believe, or an Atlas or something, or Odysseus and the Cyclops again, or something like that. I remember.
well, it's kind of trying to figure out when it takes place. It's a little strange. It appears that it takes place in 16th, 17th century, something like that, which is unusual for a Peplum film. But it's a lot of fun. And I do like the horror elements when you find them in a Peplum. I think the two work together really well. There's not that many of them, but Goliath and the Vampires is one title. Reg Park's, Hercules, which
Oh, and the vampires or the underworld, depending on what the title happens.
it's got several different titles, and I've
Yeah,
got jumbled in my head right now. But it's the one with Christopher Lee. So that's a pretty easy one.
they
Where he
dubbed inexplicably. He speaks so many languages and he has such a great voice, and yet they dubbed him in that movie.
well, oddly enough, not every Peplum film was dubbed, but I want to say like 99% of them were.
Mhm.
And for a couple of reasons, depending on where the film was being shot, they used a lot of outdoor locations. And Cinecittà, the Roman studio, was in the middle of Rome and very close to the airport. So the cinematographers had to watch when they were doing any outdoor shots because you could see a plane, coming through some of the shots, and of course the noise, from a big city like that and an airport, so close by, would have been an issue. So most of the films there were not shot with sync sound. They were shot silent, and then a soundtrack was dubbed over top, depending on where the film was being sent for distribution. Um, they they dubbed a lot of films in Rome in the 1960s in a lot of different languages. And a lot of the cast members in these films, they weren't necessarily just Italian. They were from all over Europe, the United States, I mean, every point, on the globe, essentially. And I think that's one of the reasons why these were dubbed into so many different languages and why they were so popular, because it was an international cast. Um, essentially. But they were, like I said, almost all exclusively dubbed, with the exception of just a handful here and there. It made them also a lot cheaper to shoot.
Like a
Uh,
lot of the Godzilla movies and things like that. The kaijus, that they call them now, the kaiju movies.
mhm. It made them a lot faster to shoot and much cheaper. Just to overlay the soundtrack, at the very end of it. You had to be sure that you stuck to the script, however, because if you didn't, trying to get the actors doing the dubbing to figure out exactly what words were being spoken, depending on who was saying them, because there were many different languages being represented on screen. And if you had, let's say, you were dubbing Steve Reeves or something like that, like he was speaking English, so you had to watch to see what he was saying. Now, for some of the other actors who were speaking different languages, you had to make sure that whatever text you were given as that character's speech kind of fit that character's lip movements. And if you'll notice that in some of the, well, in most of the dubbed films, there are a lot of awkward sentence constructs,
Yes, that's true.
preposition,
That,
prepositional phrases strung together galore. To
that's
the
true of a
point where
lot
you,
of the films, and they are so easy to parody for that reason. Like "What's Up, Tiger Lily" and the Hercules parodies, and
I got to. What's Up, Tiger Lily is probably in my top 10 favorite films of all time. That is one of my absolute favorites. It is so corny, uh, but it's so honest at the same time. And
I
the
like, I like Hercules Returns.
That's a good one
That
too.
was very clever the way they did that.
The thing I like the most about What's Up, Tiger Lily is that except for a couple of scenes here and there with China Lee, it's a very 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 squeaky clean movie. Now there is one sequence in the film that they are riffing on, where there's a topless. I think they're in a topless bar or something like that, and they're covered up for the purposes of What's Up, Tiger Lily. They're like floating X's, so you can't see the exotic dancers, as well as some little boys probably would have liked to have seen them. But other than that, the dialogue that they've overdubbed on the film, like I said, is just squeaky clean, goofy, and so much fun. I love the cornball humor in it. I love the fact that it is clean, but still a riot to watch. So funny. And I'm not a big Woody Allen film fan.
Nor mine. But that was very clever, and some of the other, like his constant use of "rebels are we want to be free like the fishes in the sea," that appears in a few of the movies. So I like
Mhm.
things like that.
I tend to like him best when he goes back in time. I mean, I loved Radio Days.
Uh-huh.
Purple Rose of Cairo was kind of interesting. Um, I didn't really care for Annie Hall very much, and that's probably the film that everybody else likes the best. I'm not a big Diane Keaton fan, and found the film kind of annoying.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of his movies. I just remember bits and pieces, scenes, and
The ones that I like, I really like, and the ones that I don't, I really don't like. But Radio Days, I think, is for me that's my favorite Woody Allen. I think it's got a lot of heart. There's something about it that kind of reminds me of A Christmas Story in a way. Um, and I wouldn't doubt that he didn't borrow a few elements from A Christmas Story for Radio Days. Uh, the two films I think are about 3 or 4 years apart, something of that nature. But it's a really good movie. And I said that was my favorite Woody Allen film. That's my second favorite Woody Allen film. My favorite one's What's Up, Tiger Lily. I think it is just so funny. I loved it the first time I saw it as a kid, and I still like it.
I can't remember the title, but I like a science fiction movie too. I was remembering it as you were talking about it. And I remember that in the future, milkshakes are healthy, and they become healthy. Protein shakes have become consumed far and wide in our dietary habits of today.
They are. I just wish that science could make them taste better. That I was sick over the last couple of weeks,
I'm
and
sorry to hear that.
I couldn't. It's a long story, but I couldn't eat any solid food for a while. So I got some. It was Boost, is what it is, and I know that that stuff doesn't taste good, but oh my God, I mean, they could do better than that. I just I got the one that I thought would be least offensive, vanilla, and it was still full. I don't think I finished the bottle.
My two favorites are Jocko Molk. It's Jockomolk with the O, I think, having two dots on top of it. It's made in
Okay.
Canada. And here in Jersey, we get it mostly in like vitamin shops.
Yeah.
And for a while, Rite Aid was carrying it. And I don't know what's going on with Rite Aid now, but we get it there. And then the other one is Owen, Owyn. Owen is made with plant protein, and
Oh.
Jocko Milk is made with milk protein. So
Hmm.
usually I'm not very tolerant of milk products, but I haven't had any problems with the Jocko Milk, and I haven't had any problems with the Owen. So out of all the ones I've tried, because I stopped drinking the ones that have sucralose and all those things in them. I don't have those, or aspartame. So I stay with the healthy ingredients, and those two have been my favorites for a while now. So I've stuck to them. I always have my wife, who has better eyesight than me, read the ingredients whenever we come across a new one, and usually there's at least one or two offensive chemicals in there, so I pass on them.
I understand that. The reason I got sick was because I ingested something that I have a intolerance for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a food additive that I'm very, very sensitive to. And like I said, it was a week before I could really start eating anything. And even then, I mean, I'm still not quite back, you
I
know.
hope you recover quickly.
Well, not from this. I haven't. I've been to the doctor twice so far, but I'm getting back.
And I'm grateful that you put aside your discomfort and joined us today on the show. I'm very thankful. Thank you.
Well, my issue today wasn't any discomfort except with what's happened to all my software, which seems to be a problem. But I'll get it back at some point, I suppose. Yeah, going back to Kirk Morris, his film career, like I said, petered out in the late 1960s, and from the research that I've done, he used to start creating the little the photo comic books that were really popular in Italy and other points in Europe in the 1970s. The photo romanzi.
Yes, the photonovellas. Yeah.
Yes, he had intended to produce some, and he was shuttling back and forth between Italy and France, and got tired of it, the commute, going back and forth. And even though he had intended on producing some and not being in them, he wound up being in them and was highly successful at it. He did it for probably 30 years or more. And for about a 10-year streak, he did it as one character and was very successful at it, made a lot of money. And interestingly, those were, like I said, those were just those they were almost like a comic book kind of thing, but they were done with photographs.
Yeah, they were mostly soap operas, although there were science fiction ones and there were
Yeah.
superhero ones and there were mythological ones, and sometimes they'd continue them in comic books, and sometimes they just kept them as photonovellas. Yeah, I remember that back when I was much younger, in candy stores, which I haven't seen the candy store in quite a while. There were walls full of books, and the photonovellas had their own rack. I remember, and you can look through them and see what the photonovella you're interested in reading. And they had a lot of mythology ones, so I picked up those usually.
Yeah, I think a lot of the ones that he did were like you said, sort of soap opera based dramas, essentially. But there again, he was a nice looking guy, um, and very successful in the endeavor. And I've seen some of the images from some of the photo romanzi that he was in the 1970s, and they look like a riot. I would love to see some whole copies of them and take a look at those. That would be a lot of fun.
Quest on eBay.
I've got so many other irons in the fire there too. But yeah, you never know what you might stumble upon on eBay.
Yeah, no, I just succeeded on an eBay quest. I got let's see. Oh, okay. It came out not too fuzzy. It's a figure of Hercules. Toys R Us, before they went out of business and disappeared, had produced Mighty Men of Olympus or Legends of Olympus or something. And I managed to pick up all of them except one that had Hercules fighting the Hydra. And the
Hmm.
logic was, oh, I'll pick it up next time for Toys R Us. And surprise, surprise, Toys R Us went out of business. So I did
Yeah.
periodic raids of that, and I found the Hercules part of it, and I'm still looking for the Hydra part of it. Whenever it comes up, it's usually like 80, 90, $100, and that's more than I'm willing to spend on a plastic Hydra. And
There's a. I'm sorry.
I haven't given up.
Oh, okay. There's a television show on MeTV called Collector's Corner, and it's hosted by Lisa Welchel. And they look at giant collections of toys or what, doesn't have to be toys, but they're just giant collections of things. Oftentimes they are action figures, Hot Wheels, Barbie, things of that nature. And the most recent episode that I saw was action figures, and I was shocked at the value of some of the action figures. He had some very, very rare pieces, um, and that would explain, some of the values. But I was shocked at the price of those action figures that I can remember, as a child. If you knew then what you know now, you could
Hold on.
afforded all of that stuff. But unfortunately, no, I don't think that's the way this is going to go. To wrap up, though, about with Kirk Morris, he it sort of fits into a different niche than a lot of the peplum actors for me. And that's for a couple of reasons. For one, a lot of the peplum actors were either famous for something else. They might have been big in the world of bodybuilding, like Steve Reeves or Reg Park, Reg Lewis as well, Mark Forrest. They already had some fame. They were already bringing something to the table. Then there was a second set of peplum actors who, uh, had done movies in the 50s, but were largely known for the Mae West Review, and that includes Gordon Mitchell, Dan Vadas, Mickey Hargitay was also a part of the review, and I think there were a few others as well. Gordon Mitchell, for example, had appeared in movies for like 10 years before he went to Italy to star in peplums. But usually he was just in the background, here or there. He might be, he might be a roughneck, or he might be, indeed a bodybuilder like he is in Little Abner. You can see him in bit roles, in a lot of different films. And it's interesting to trying to get a complete filmography on him would be impossible because he was in so many movies, even if it was for just 30 seconds. And he couldn't remember a lot of the things that he had done either. So trying to compile all that, I think, was very difficult.
I would comment on that, but I've said a million times you could write books.
Well,
Brian, the Brian Walker Library is.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of it's up here, and this thing seems to be failing at this point. So, if I'm going to write anything, I better do it pretty fast.
Oh, I believe you can do it. If it's in the cards, it'll be a great thing. Have a legacy you can leave behind that extends past the internet.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Something that I've been toying. I meant to do it all year and I haven't done it yet. Is to get my own podcast off the ground.
That
And
is fantastic. That is awesome.
I've it there again. It's all up here. It just has to come out here, and I have to bone up on a few things before I start all this. But I'm going to try to get it going by the end of the year.
That is
So,
fantastic.
and I would love to have you on.
Oh, I would love to be on, and feel free to promote it on any and all of my pages, so that people can find it.
I will. And now that I'm running on all eight cylinders again, maybe I can get back to it, get some content up.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. I look forward to that.
Okay, great.
And how can people find you now while you're still doing what you're doing?
Well, one thing that hopefully I'll always be able to do is to keep the drive-in online. It's been online since February 1st, 1998, and the 28th year anniversary will be coming up in February. So
Wow.
it's not that long away. uh, uh, and the drive-in is there with hundreds of pages devoted to B-movie actors from the 1930s through the 1980s. If you want to interact with me on social media, that'll have to be on Facebook for now. And if you run a search for Brian's Drive-In Theater, I should pop up.
And he will. We got in contact and we're still talking nearly a decade later. So
2016, so yeah, it's almost 10 years. Yeah.
I can vouch for his getting back to you. Well, Brian, thank you so very much. I hope you feel better. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show today and treating us with all this information. I might go on a quest to find if he's still around and still giving interviews. Hopefully, my inquiries will lead someplace. I look forward to the next time you're on, and I wish you success in all your endeavors. Have fun teaching, and I hope you feel better.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good night, and thanks to everybody who joined us. Joyous journeys and amazing adventures to all. And happy new beginnings, because I know for a lot of people, the school semester is starting in and around now.
You're here.